There are quite a few nighttime signs of diabetes that you should know about. And it's very important to recognize what your body's trying to tell you, because so many people ignore these signs and they end up having more damage with your organs, especially the kidneys. The first one is getting up frequently at night urinating. This is called nocturia. This is when you have too much sugar in your blood and the kidneys filter the blood, and the body is naturally trying to get rid of this excess sugar because it's toxic. And the other thing to know is that wherever the sugar goes, water goes with it, and so as it's getting rid of the sugar, it's also getting rid of your fluids, making you dehydrated. Number 2 is excessive thirst. Now, of course, being a diabetic, you're going to be dehydrated, so you're going to constantly need water to hydrate yourself. But the other thing to realize is that when you're a diabetic or you have high sugar, you're also naturally going to retain sodium, and so if your body is going to hold this salt, it's also going to need more water. And so you have this feedback loop, where you're drinking all this water, you're urinating excessively, which then creates dehydration cause, and this keeps going around and round and round. When you're getting rid of the water, you're also getting rid of potassium, magnesium, calcium, but for some reason you tend to retain more sodium. Okay, the next symptom is restless legs syndrome. This is when you consume a lot of sugar, and that sugar depletes a key vitamin called B1. When you're deficient in B1, you start building up a lot of lactic acid in your muscles, where your muscles won't get the oxygen and it becomes very fatigued. And so you don't want lactic acid build up in your muscles when you're sleeping, because you're going to feel very restless and you're not going to have the oxygen in your legs. And so your legs are just going to feel very energetic. Another connection with this restless leg is a magnesium deficiency, which you nearly always see with people with high blood sugars. And without magnesium, the muscles cannot feel relaxed. And it's a B1 and magnesium deficiency because the person is usually consuming too many refined carbs or sugars, and so they can take a lot of B1 and temporarily feel better, but unless they get rid of the sugars, it just keeps coming back. Now, the next symptom does relate to restless leg syndrome, and this is called peripheral neuropathy. If you have this, it could be burning on the bottom of the feet, it can be pain, it can be numbness, it could be any type of weird sensation at the bottom of your feet. The reason why it gets worse at night is because you're lying down flat and you're getting more pooling of blood, which is going to create a little more pressure on the nerve endings, which are damaged. The remedy for peripheral neuropathy is really twofold. 1. It's a type of B vitamin called benfotiamine, with alpha-lipoic acid, and together, it's a really powerful combination. The next symptom is also related to this, and it's cramps in your lower legs or your feet. This is because someone has too much sugar in the blood, and that creates a magnesium deficiency, and when you don't have enough magnesium, calcium starts building up inside the cell. Calcium is all about muscle contraction and not muscle relaxation. Magnesium is more about muscle relaxation. So when you have this imbalance of not enough magnesium and too much calcium in the wrong place, you're going to get cramping in your lower legs. The type of magnesium I would recommend is magnesium glycinate. This is because it also helps you sleep at the same time. The next symptom I want to talk about is excessive sweating at night. Usually in the face, the neck, or upper part of the body. And I'm not going to confuse this with a different condition, night sweats or hot flashes. This is because of menopause and is different. This is a situation where a person is just sweating at night for no reason, and it's not even necessarily too hot. And this is because the blood sugar problem puts that person in a state of fight or flight mode. This is called sympathetic dominance. It's a part of the nervous system that is more of an adrenaline type, and because adrenaline is activated the person, it starts activating more sweat as a compensation mechanism. And so when you have this blood sugar issue, your body's going to be under more stress. Now, this can occur also with low blood sugar, because adrenaline is activating and trying to raise the blood sugar. The next condition is sleep apnea. This is a situation where you don't have enough oxygen because there's some type of obstruction of air in the back of the throat or the sinuses. This is a classic diabetic symptom. It usually occurs because the person has a lot of insulin that is pumping through their body and doctors never measure it. But it's related to something called insulin resistance, where the body is trying to protect you from too much toxic from glucose or sugar. This is because insulin controls this whole thing. It creates this resistance to insulin, and so the door is blocked. But of course the problem with this is, you're going to gain a lot of weight, because you have this compensating excess amount of insulin, which is a fat-storing hormone. Now the next symptom has to do with just hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. This is because the body is going to want to get that sugar out of your bloodstream, and it does it with insulin. Like I said in the previous symptom, your insulin's going to be high, and the high insulin is going to try to push the blood sugars down, so you're going to wake up in the middle of night, sometimes with low blood sugar. And one of the big problems with that is an activation of adrenaline. So you just wake up in the middle of night with this stress hormone activation, and you might also have an elevation of this other hormone called cortisol. Usually in the early morning, when the alarm clock is going to go off, that's when you can sleep the best. And this release of sugar is also accompanied by the production of sugar by your liver in the early morning. You just need to get on a low-carb diet for a period of time, probably longer than you think. To correct it, it takes 6 to 8 months. But many times, it's not coming from the diet, it's coming from your liver just making too much sugar because you ate the wrong foods for many years. The next symptom is delayed sleep. This is because high levels of sugar, they delay this release of melatonin. You'll be lying down at night and waiting to go to sleep, but you just can't go to sleep easily. The next symptom relates to gastric reflux. This is where you have to kind of sleep on this wedge or prop your pillows up, because the acid is regurgitating from a valve in your esophagus. The reason for that is because the blood sugar issue is affecting the autonomic nervous system, which controls the valves of the body, including the valve on the top of the stomach. So we're getting this lack of control. I think a really good solution for that would be the low-carb ketogenic diet as a necessity, but also consuming 2 meals, the first meal in the morning and the second meal at lunch. Now the reason that's going to help you is because you're getting the same calories, but they're in the first part of the day, not the last part of the day. Because your system is so slow, if you eat too late things just kind of back up. The next symptom is either nightmares or very vivid dreams. Those are usually related to a neurotransmitter problem, because you're very deficient in B1. One of the big things that deplete you of B1 is consuming too many carbs. Now the next thing you might experience is a bit of high blood pressure in the middle of the night. This is called non-dipping. Typically a person, when they go to sleep, should have things slow down, pulse, blood pressure, that's called nocturnal dipping. But with diabetes, you have what's called non-dipping, it doesn't do that. The blood pressure is just going to start going up and you might not even feel your blood pressure, but you're just going to feel awake. The next symptom, heart palpitations, occurs while you're sleeping. This primarily occurs because of the lack of electrolytes, potassium deficiency and magnesium deficiency. They would benefit greatly from a good electrolyte powder, with a lot of magnesium and potassium. The next symptom is teeth grinding. The activation of the flight or fight mechanism or the sympathetic nervous system puts a person into a state of stress. While they're sleeping, their jaw muscles are activated and they're grinding their teeth. And the last symptom is a headache when you wake up in the morning. This usually occurs because you are very dehydrated and the brain needs enough fluid to prevent it from having pain and having pressure. Realize that it's not just about drinking more water to hydrate you, you need these electrolytes with it.